Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind. I'm 72 the Architect, aka Jason B, and we're going to do a little bit about Daily Dad, my perspective on attitude. Also, it's a part of the Rise and Grind brand. So, Attitude and Outcomes, a live producing on YouTube as well as the Breakout app. So, don't forget to download the Breakout social audio app on your app store. So, we'll be right back here in just a second as we get started. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Rise and Grind and my Daily Dad, my perspective on attitude and outcomes. And what are we really here going to do and dive in about that? Well, as I was reading the Daily Stoic and the Daily Dad by Ryan Holiday, there are great perspectives on daily doses of how we approach our lives. It's been a great weekend that I had, a Memorial weekend. Hey, Gina, good to see you. Thank you for your loyal support. Definitely appreciate you. So I wanted really to cover a few things, and Memorial Day gave me a lot of perspective. I was thinking about the loved ones and the people that I've served in the United States Navy with, as well as those who've served before me. Even my ancestors, dating back even to the Revolutionary War. You just like it's a time of remembrance, but I had a lot of time to reflection. That means also I had time to clean up my house, do things I didn't really take off anywhere. I spent time with my family, and it was a great time, and I could not complain. But in that reflection time, I started talking to my future brother-in-law, and we had a great discussion even last night. And it was looking at our perspective, looking at our attitudes for outcomes, right? Are we doing all the right things? So I thought it was perfectly appropriate for the question in the Daily Stoic that asked, is my hard work for the right end? Right. You know what I mean? Like, are you really putting it to an outcome, or are you just reacting to things, trying to put it in, hopefully that it will work out? Are you touching on places and people that may or may not work? I feel that when I look at that and I really appreciate what's actually working, where is my focus? How much time out of my day has the best of my attitude for a great outcome? And it's a very, very important thing. And I think it constantly gets overlooked. Now, Ryan goes on to quote in Epictetus, one of my favorite Stoics now, along with Marcus Aurelius. He quotes Epictetus in saying exactly this. He says, I can't call a person a hard worker just because I hear they read and write and even working at all night until I know a person is working for. I can't deem them industrious, and I can't if in the end they work for their own ruling principle, having it be remain constant harmony with nature. Now, what does that mean? Now, Ryan goes on to explain the quote. He says, what are the chances that the busiest person you know is actually the most productive? We tend to associate busyness with goodness and believe that spending many hours at work should be rewarded. Instead, evaluate what you're doing and why you're doing it, and at where you're accomplishing it well will take you. If you don't have a good answer, then stop. I felt that's very appropriate for today. So first, let's look at our attitude. Do you start Monday or Tuesday, the day after the holiday, Memorial Day? Did you start today like, oh, I got to get up, I got to get the kids ready for school, or I got to get to work? Dreading the work that you are being paid and compensated for, are you dreading what you're going to do even the start of this morning? Just the beginning of that attitude alone says a lot about you. It says so much because it literally tells me what kind of outcomes. But we put on that happy, shiny face and we act like everything's fine. Hey, it's good. But we're not fulfilled. And as I was talking to my brother in law last night, we were talking about the reason for finding satisfaction, being satisfied, being fulfilled by the day's end. Are you putting enough of the right work by the end of the day? Did you get enough accomplished, or were you criticizing and too harsh on yourself? Many times We have criticisms, we pass them over. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to worry, but you want to do great things. Well, I think that's very important that you want to do great things. But what were the ingredients that made those right things exist? What were those things that actually produce an outcome? If you had to start a business from absolutely scratch today, how would you really treat it? Would you treat it as your only child? Would you take care of it? Or would you just say, well, I tried it and then I'm out? When you have no boats, or when you have no boats to rely on, as they say, burn the boats, find where people are at. You really see what people are made of. And it's really interesting, if you ask me, that when you see people at their best is when they have no backup plan. This is where I really appreciate immigrants, because their attitude, the more immigrants I meet from the fields and wherever, however I come across, the ones here in California, they work the fields, they work out in construction sites, they are doing the grittiest, dirtiest job and taking the least amount of pay. They really are grateful for the experience to be able to have and come from an environment where there was no haves. So how do we get to an attitude of gratitude? And it comes from looking what you already have and not keeping your eyes on what you don't have. Why is that so important? Because that literally tells you where your sense of direction is going to be. If you're keeping aiming after riches and big houses and big cars, ask yourself, if you're after that direction, are you willing to go into debt or cheat people out of their own prosperity? Are you willing to step on people? Because that's what it's going to take. I have never met a businessman or businesswoman who didn't have to step on some toes to get where they're at. And sometimes their self-reflections, they have to be more protective of their wealth, their holdings. They don't let people in so easy. They're guarded. They're alone. And when we see that, it's like, yeah, they can afford to buy a brand new Bugatti, or they can afford to buy like a $3,000, or I mean, 3,000 square foot to 5,000 square foot home. I think about what that means to me. And now that I'm 50, I thought about, really, what are the outcomes that I want? Number one, I want my family to be fulfilled and happy, to love me and respect me and appreciate me. You know, when I look at that, is that something I can control? No, I cannot control that. That is up to them. But what I can do to influence, to give them ingredients, is to be the guiding dad, the guiding husband, the guiding man, to be able to give perspective of appreciation. Not do I just do things because I love them, but because I want to nurture them. I want them to grow. I talked about that yesterday on Rise and Grind. I talked about how important that it is to nurture your growing, your own particular growing, right? And if you look at that, it comes with an attitude. It comes with a price to pay. It comes with grit. It comes with an attitude that it's like, I know what it takes to succeed, because you've had the experience. But imagine that, I've said this quote before, and I'm quoting somebody else. I can't remember where it came from, but it said, we spend most of our youth trying to go after riches and wealth, but we spend most of our elder years trying to fight for just health. What if we reverse that, made great health in our youth and wealth in our older years? Like, what if we integrated both at the same time? What if I treated people better? And how we raise children. I think this is really important. When we look at children, we look at our kids or even friends, how we can make impacts in our community. Like, I read in the a Daily Dad, it basically, the guy brought up a lesson about how, if you wanted to teach a child how to change their attitude towards things, show them that, give them the perspective, if I let your brother or your sister, who or whoever's closest to you, do the same thing that you did the same exact way to you, would you have wanted it done? Seems so easy, right? And it's like, but then it's that overshrouding, you're being the parent, you're being there, and you're kind of just like, oh wow, I wouldn't want that done. I wouldn't want, because that shroud of parenting, like it's just like shaming, but where are they encouraged to be giving? And that's why I tell people all the time, you are self-driven, but you are not self-made. You are community built. People are built in families and tribes and businesses. You learn in teams, you learn all these things, but it all comes out for an outcome. So if you have a bad attitude towards things and you're selfish, let's just say kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge. And he was only sure he had, you know, mounds of gold coin. But the moral lesson of the Christmas Carol was the money doesn't matter when you're all alone now, does it? Love. And this is where I really appreciate my future brother-in-law, where he said, and he came back from a trip from Mexico over the weekend, and he basically said, the only thing I'm here to do is how to help people love, to help heal and love. And I know it sounds woo-woo, but what does love do? It helps encourage each other in our attitudes. It helps people grow in perspective and curiosity. And that attitude, when we appreciate, doesn't mean we're not going to have struggle, but when we love things and we love the craft that we're doing, we're just trying to get better and better and better, just like speaking, making a podcast. It has to take practice. You have to have a certain level of passion for it. And when you think about this, it really gives you a reward, an internal reward. Somehow along the process of earning it, it gives you appreciation. And so when people come to me, well, hey, Jason, how do you do well on your podcast? How did you become a speaker the way that you do, or you did? And I just simply say, I just put in practice and I was willing to learn and appreciate and be curious and not leave things on an empty doorstep, right? Or empty hands. Like, yeah, it seems too hard. Like the perfect example I could put to you is like, I've had the hardest time learning Discord. And my friends tell me, oh my God, it's so easy. Discord is so easy. And I'm like, but for me, it's not. To me, it looks like a bunch of lines and a bunch of hashtags and things. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing how to do. I really don't. What does that tell me? Well, that's an opportunity for me to learn. Many people, millions of people use Discord. People tell me all the time, oh, we should start a Discord for your thing. And I'm like, oh, dude, it sounds like a Facebook, but it just like lines and like, what do you do with it? Then I started learning about like Slack, same thing, right? I'm like, dude, maybe I'm too old. I don't know, but I'm curious. And so someone said it yesterday. They said basically, well, maybe one of us could start one of those classes and do it for ourselves and teach you all how to do it. How much are you willing to pay? And I found that most interesting, to say the least. I found that so interesting because then I was like, that's the opportunity. If you have a way of explaining it and making it easy, then let's see it. But if you don't, and you're just assuming because you've done it, like there were some hoops that you went through, imagine the other person and their attitude. If it's too difficult and you're not connecting the message to the product, then what do you got? You just have the words easy. You forgot all the specifics. So in today's perspective, for just being a dad, for being a business leader, for being other things, for being a good person, what are the outcomes that you want? Really, what are the outcomes that you're working for? Is it the right end that you need for yourself? And what is your attitude towards it? Do you hate it? Or do you try to skip and cheat it? Think about what that means. Now, I have a few viewers on YouTube, and then I also have a listener in the breakout. A matter of fact, Caroline Boyd, welcome in. If there's anything that you'd like to add, this is Q&A. If there's any perspective that you'd like to share, the mic is open to you. And if not, no problem. So is there anything that you got out of what I was basically saying?
I love everything you were saying, and I personally have an attitude of gratitude. Uh,
Oh, maybe the mic is interrupted. I'm not sure. For some reason, I can't hear her. Anyhow, but if there's anyone else while Caroline's getting her thing together, who else is watching me? I can't see who's actually watching me on YouTube, but thank you. If it's Gina, thank you so much for even staying loyal. And my one ask is to share with people, share with your friends, find a few people. My one ask of today is share with a few people that could really benefit from this talk. For some reason, Caroline, I don't know what's going on with your mic, but here, let me mute you up for a second. And maybe if you unmute and see what happens. I don't know why I can't hear. Hold on, let me see if I can switch. Maybe this helps.
and
There it is. There,
Okay,
now I hear your voice. Now you're loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. I have a positive attitude towards reaching that goal because I want to become the best. I, read new recipes on Instagram and YouTube. So yes, I have an attitude of gratitude. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does in a sum. So, and how do you build up gratitude? Like if you were to explain to the common person who doesn't know what gratitude really is, what do you do exactly to build that? If you don't mind asking.
I think that would be too hard to explain to somebody. I think either you're grateful for what you have or you're not. I really don't know
That's a
how I
deep
would
question,
explain
huh?
that.
It's not, it's a tricky one.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, in my perspective, to build gratitude, the first thing I would tell you is look at something that you have. Let's just say, I've got a water bottle. I'm thankful that I have a water bottle for me to drink my water, right? And I'm thankful for the person that gave it to me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I have now something to drink. The simplest, most act that someone gave this to me. I didn't pay for this, but someone gave this to me. And even me thinking in my mind, it brings, when I think of that person, I'm grateful, or I begin gratitude, because that feeling of thankfulness, appreciation is at the foundations of gratitude. It is a gratefulness in the end. That's for me to explain in this sum. So yeah, it's definitely there. But I think that it goes overlooked. I think people say it as kind of like something passive, but their actions say differently. And you don't necessarily have to be grateful for every single thing, but you can being grateful for having like, I can't tell you every time. Here's something that really affects me. Every time I get on the freeway by my house, I see homeless encampments alongside the freeway, and it's kind of close to the Delta where I live. And there's people always, like, the police, and the sheriffs, they clear out these people and they come right back in and they just reestablish a home for them to live in. And it makes me feel sad because over the years, I hardly ever saw anyone camping out there. Never. Like in the last 3 years, it's been an explosion. And then the more I look and I'm driving the different pathways of California highways, there's more and more people in open fields. And I'm like, the beginning thoughts, what happened to my country? What happened to prosperity? I could go to blame politics all I want. And so when I think about that, could be me out there if I didn't put the right amount of effort and works into what I already have. And that's my home. I care about my home. I take care of it. And then sometimes I compare, like I look at my next door neighbors. He's got like these weeds that are growing about 9 feet tall. never mows his lawn, makes my neighborhood look like kind of shit. Excuse my language. He makes it look bad. And when it looks bad, and so what did I do? I knocked on his door and I knew him. I said, hey, do you need some help with your yard? And the guy's from, I think, Nigeria. And in his mind, he's like, oh, I've been so tired and I don't have, he's got a wife and two kids. And I said, is there any way I can help you? Because your 9-foot tall weeds are going to expand into my yard. That's that close. And he's all, no, 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 I'll get to it. I'll get to it. It would be a pleasure. I'll help you out. So what do? Chop down these big gargantuan like style weeds. And he didn't really want to say thank you. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm not looking for it. I just said, doing part of owning our homes is putting the work into the right things for the outcomes. You moved into a beautiful neighborhood, you have a beautiful home, but it doesn't stay beautiful unless you put the work in and you put the attitude towards it. Like, hey, every day I put towards making my home great, then it reflects in my environment. So that is definitely an outcome. And he just, and he got his lawnmower out and he started mowing his front yard. And he's got one of those electric mowers, and I saw him struggle. And it's like, that's why it kind of happens to us all. If we leave things on the shelf too much, the things that we're once grateful get out of hand, and there's no gratitude. But if we polish and we put the work in and saying, you know what, I know when I get finished my lawn, whatever, my yard is going to look better. It's one thing less. I can focus more time on the family. I can focus on, getting rest and relaxation. And I was kind of talking about this on Clubhouse a little while ago. I was talking to some friends basically saying, when do you program your vacation, right? Do you program your vacation because you're overwhelmed, you're burdened, you're overstressed? Or do you set your vacation date like, this is the end date where I stop working and for a week or 2 weeks, I don't have to work. My focus is like, let loose, let live, have some fun. But most of us, by the time we get to vacation, we're so overwhelmed. We're not grateful for being there. Our attitude sucks most of the time. And when we get there, it's like, dude, what did I get out of all this? I'm underpaid. They don't respect me. The groveling, the gossip, it goes absolutely nowhere. And other people keep succeeding above you, and you're wondering why. Why do they succeed? Why did they get to benefit? Why was I passed over the promotions, the managers, whatever you wanted it to be? Well, it's because your attitude sucks. And where did your attitude? You had outcomes that fed it. And then you're wanting a vacation. And many of us have said this, I can't afford a vacation. It's expensive. You think of resorts. Well, a vacation doesn't necessarily have to be a resort. It can be a getaway. It can be camping. It can be anything. But you got to put some time and focus. Well, so what I'm going to wrap the show up with today is set yourself up, set your attitude up. My friend Jason. Oh, hey, it's my friend Nabil. Oh my gosh, good to see you, my friend. Absolutely. I appreciate you being here. What I want to tell people is if you set your relief as kind of like a finish line and your attitude towards that finish line, and you get to your rest and relaxation, your vacation, because usually in vacations, the first couple of days, you're trying to just de-stress. And then you realize I've got all these things I left unattended to. And then when that takes all your energy and your half of your vacation's gone, are you really celebrating or doing the things you want? More likely, no, you're not. And it hurts. So if there's anything that I want to tell you about success, if there's anything that I can imply, on you today, is to take that question Is my hard work for the right end? Are you really looking at just working hard or working hard for an outcome so that you can set yourself up where you don't have to work as hard? You're just managing, you're operating and staying curious, building momentum in your life. That's where we get, because when I start my day at 4:30 in the morning, you know what I do? I reach up, I get out of my bed. I don't even linger in the bed. I get up, I reach my hands up. I praise my creator, my being, my God. Thank you for allowing me to wake. I get to it, brush my teeth, drink some water. I go and read. I nourish my mind in training. Then I go for a walk or I go exercise. I go to the gym. I do not concern myself with business in the first 3 hours of the day. No, I will not do this. Then by the time I'm done with that, take a shower, put myself together, do my podcast, then I go start work. I'm happy with that. And sometimes I socialize, other times I don't. But now, having this reflection weekend, I'm going to put less time on hanging out and more time into outcomes that I want. So, that is the morning message for Rise and Grind today. Think about the outcomes by shaping the attitude that you really can use. If your outcomes could really just feed and be nourished by your attitude of gratefulness, gratitude, like kind of like, Carolyn was talking about. You give that outcome because you appreciate what you have, not what you don't have. And stop comparing and contrasting the outside world. What do you feel? What do you think? You know, Anyhow, thank you so much for attending Rise and Grind today. I hope that you've got, you know, some great perspectives. Share with friends on YouTube and the Breakout app so you can download the Breakout social audio on your app stores and you can do that. Anyhow, but that's it. All I have for today. Thank you so much, Caroline, for attending. And thanks, Nabil and Gina. I appreciate you. We'll see you guys all next time on Rise and Grind. I think I'll be back tomorrow. Yeah. So, anyhow, we'll see you guys later. You take care.